Thank you for having us, man. I really appreciate it. Could you tell us something about, where you come from? Were you born here in Duncan, or how was your childhood? What did your childhood look like?
Well, thank you for having me, Luke. Yeah, I'm not originally from Duncan here, but I grew up about, an hour and 10 minutes south of here in a little town called Belzona. And it was about 3,000 people or something like that. And spent most of my life there growing up, and just a regular, normal, small Delta town.
Okay, do you have brothers, sisters, or?
I do. I have a sister a year older and two younger brothers, several years younger. Yep.
Any music in the family already, or are you the exception, or?
I had a great grandmother that was, they say she was a piano player, real good piano player.
Mm-hmm.
But not so much in music in the family.
Did she play professionally, or just?
She played in church a lot, and
Okay.
And outside of church quite a bit. From what I heard, was told. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And your brothers and sisters, do they do something with music, or?
My younger brother does mess around a little bit, but not professionally.
Okay, good. Yeah. And how did the music came in view? Your blues music when you were a kid,
Well, you're running into people in Belzona that played the real thing, the real bluesmen. And the radio had a lot to do with it too, because there was a blues show on the radio every day from 5 to 10, and it was all about blues. 5 days a week. I almost want to say 6 days a week. And I'm looking at your book here, Luke. And
yeah, do you?
I see the 4 wood. Did I say 4 wood?
Yeah, well, or acknowledgments, or
Yeah,
just a little bit. Yeah.
About with Dr. William Ferris. He was a DJ back then. He started the program,
Oh, really?
And so he would play a lot of country blues, and he would explain to us who they were, and he taught us all about the blues, and so we kind of, we've heard some of these people, and people that knew them as teenagers, so it kind of drew us more into it.
Who are the old guys that you met in Belzoni, or that were?
There was early on. I met a few people, and I didn't write their names down.
Okay.
And then later on, I think I was 17 or 18. I used to go to the Greenville Blues Festival back then, and met people there, and heard a bunch of people.
Okay.
During that time, that was 79, 80, 81, 80, 82. Might have been 80, 81, 82, 83. I don't remember. But and then I met Paul Wine Jones. Later on, that was 85. And then his friends, and that was, during that time.
Did you already play music or an instrument at that time?
I did. I played guitar. I played when I was a teenager. Knew some Lightning Hopkins and different things, and we'd play. And my guitar friend Bobby Cobb and I used to play. And we played with a handful of older black guys, and I don't remember their names. They weren't professional,
Yeah.
I do. We played at the Greenville Blues Festival one time, and we were playing with 2 guys, one black guy on the harp and one on the guitar, and Bobby and I, and and some guy, this is before the festival started. We're like 17 or something. A guy walks up with a microphone on a stick, one of those big microphones for video.
Yeah.
And we were coming through the PA system on the stage. We played for 30 minutes. We were the opening act, but nobody knew who we were, right? So it was kind of funny. Life magazine took pictures, and we put it in the Life magazine. The young white boys playing with the older black gentlemen. That was the story, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was some of the earliest, as far as playing, you know, just having fun.
Why blues? I mean, what attracted you to blues? Was it the only music like available that you could dig into, or?
Well, you know, everything was on the radio during that time. I'm be 60 in a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But I had met the hippies in town, and I was into all the 60s rock, all the classic stuff, Hendrix and Joplin and Doors and all that stuff, and the blues at the same time from the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're into all of it. I was into all of it, and the blues, I was learning I could, you know, somewhat play a Eric Clapton song, get away with it, but I couldn't play the country blues. It's like, golly, this is going to take a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
So all I could do was, I played bass with guys back then, behind them, and sometimes a little rhythm guitar, but I really wasn't doing anything with the music.
Mm-hmm.
But so it took a while, and so that's kind of how I got into the real blues, you know.
And that was basically guitar and like bass guitar?
Back then I was playing bass and then a little guitar, and then played mostly guitar after that.
Yeah, like a logical choice, or was it really a choice? Why the guitar?
Well, I always played the guitar, started out playing the guitar, and so
Okay.
I had the desire to want to learn how to play the country blues. And I didn't have what you would call an appropriate teacher. I was playing with people, and they didn't know how to teach.
Mm-hmm.
So I just say, slow down. And I would watch their fingers and try to emulate it, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's sometimes the best way to do it, I think. If you want to be close to the original thing, that's the best way to do it, you know.
Yeah, that's really the only way, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess.
Probably.
Yeah.
You play other instruments, or it's still guitar most of the time?
Professionally, just guitar. I mean,
Yeah.
I played bass professionally, just a small amount of time.
Yeah.
And that's really about it.
At that time, did you already saw the possibilities or considered it as a possibility to have a career with music, or were you?
I didn't. I just played for fun for years, and grew up in Belzon, and then eventually ended up in Jackson, Mississippi, which is south of Belzon, about an hour and a half. And I'd come back on the weekends and play with Paul and his friends. I did that for years. From the first time I met him in '85 all the way up through the '80s and '90s.
And when did you start to consider it being a career, or
Well,
making money with it, or whatever?
Yeah, I moved back to go to school to study artwork in Cleveland, Mississippi, at Delta State University in 2000. And I was playing more blues, and I was introduced to people to play with, and I was playing, backing up people, and then playing some myself, and then people started calling me to play by myself in the year 2000.
Also, basically, the backup for other people was the start of your musical, or opened the doors to a musical career. Would that be correct if I say it that way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Were you singing then too?
If you call it singing.
Well,
But,
tell me what it is, if it isn't singing.
Yeah, I was singing, yeah.
Yeah, you didn't. I mean, you did it from the beginning. I mean, singing was part of your upgrowing as a musician.
Yeah. I tried and tried.
Why would it not be singing?
Well, I was singing, it's one thing to sing, it's another thing to hit the key,
Oh yeah,
I guess.
but that's not important in blues, isn't it?
Well, thankfully, we got people like Muddy Waters that sing in a low baritone voice, and I found that, wow, I could do Muddy songs. I can do all Muddy songs, sing them all, so.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other artists like that, so.
Is that the way you picked up your style? Because you have a very specific style playing guitar. I heard you play before. How did that came about?
Paul Jones was influenced because I really loved what he did, and I had to work real hard to attain that. And so when I did, then I developed my own style after that. But I learned different people's styles probably from 2000 to 2003 or 4. And but also part of the learning was actual playing with them, and playing with Cadillac John Nolden. Well, first off, playing with Tommy Hollis was a guy who lived in Isola and W.H. Lowe. I used to play them, and we played around in places locally. And it was like in the year 2000. Playing with him over and over and stomping my foot, my rhythm grew real quick.
Yeah.
And I found instead of learning notes, especially in country blues, when your rhythm gets better, everything else falls into place. So playing rhythm with them, and of course their rhythm is not a 440 rhythm. It's a dragon type rhythm, or everybody's rhythm is different that I played with. And so you learn this feel when you start playing with them, and if you do it over and over and over, it'll get in you, and it comes out in your music. So the rhythm part of it, and the timing, and also the space you put in and you don't play, you learn how to groove on different types of songs, and you have a different feel that you never had. And so once I learned different groups and different people and how to accompany it. So when I started writing my own music, it was all there.
Yeah.
To pull from. And then finding the limitations of your voice, not pushing too hard, and finding it's okay to sing in a lower key if you need to, and finding your notes that you can't hit and never going there, or so that's a big part of it, because the vocal is half of it, so. But for years I really didn't have anything, because my voice just wouldn't where my guitar was. It wasn't as professional as my guitar playing. So I had to work on the vocal for years. And I know that's a long, boring answer.
No, it is not. I think it's an interesting answer, because, well, a lot of people that I talk to that are not really musicians think about creating your own style as a sort of rational thing that you do. But what you're telling me, it's not at all rational. It's just accumulation of all the styles that you played before, and you try to make it into your own thing. So it's a sort of natural growing into it, if I understood.
Yeah, that's correct. And you have to work with what you have.
Yeah.
If your vocal range is small, you have to work with it, and you have to write things that will fit that. And if you want to have something that's worth anything.
Yeah.
I mean, the world's full of guitar players that can't sing
Yeah.
very good, and they should stop playing guitar and concentrate on singing
Yeah.
and let it match up, you know.
Hmm. What are the main influences? I mean, you already named a few names, but if you look at your music now, and you would have to say what are like the 3, 4 main influences that define who you are now, what would that be?
Well, what happened with me was, so I was learning how to play Paul Jones's material while playing with him. And I played modern blues with a guy named David Durham for 3 years. We played at the Club Ebony every Sunday. And I was playing with other people too. And I started playing with T-Mall Ford and other people later on. And then I learned some Junior Kimbrough songs. And after I learned the Junior Kimbrough song, I was able to accompany Paul and T-Mall really good. I was very happy with it because Junior's notes, he did a lot of sustaining notes, so Paul and T-Mall were real busy. Mm-hmm. And I learned how to play their songs like them, but of course you can't accompany if you're doing that. But applying Junior's style of playing, I was able to float and find the groove to their music, and so it was a lot of fun after I found those grooves playing like that, and it fit like that. Mm-hmm. And so I have that style that I pull from as well.
Okay.
So and of course, recently during the lockdown, I took the music somewhere else. I took it out of the blues and into country rock, I guess you'd say, country rock or folk rock, or say like a J.J. Cale kind of style. I wrote original material and musically and lyrically and everything, and recorded a bunch of songs along those lines.
Mm-hmm. And they're gonna come available, or are they available?
Some of them are online now. There's a CD called Rich Poor Man.
Okay. Yeah.
And I didn't get any feedback from the blues community, which I wasn't expecting to. But I did get some comments like, "You should came out your blues. You should keep it blues. You sound a lot better doing blues." That's because they like blues.
Yeah, well, and people don't always like change, you know. I mean, probably that's part of it too.
But there's just something I did on my own. I haven't pushed that at all. For fun, I had some friends. We worked the music up and played venue a couple of times doing those songs.
Is that something that you want to continue in the future, or was it just, a nice thing to do during COVID, or?
Well, I love playing that music, but it's hard enough just to get a blues gig these days. There's just no opportunities for musicians anymore, hardly.
Yeah.
And there's no. It's just something I do for fun.
Okay.
So it's I wrote blues songs years ago, lyrically, and original music, and then you find out you have to want to do more stuff with it, so that's what I did with it.
Yeah.
And then just for my own, as an accomplishment for myself as a songwriter and lyricist and all of that, so it's under nobody is interested, I guess, there's so many people doing music today. Just to have a handful of people listen to your music is a good thing. So many people doing such good music. There's just not enough time to be heard, I guess.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Another thing that is part of the music, of course, is you have the lyrics, you have the notes that you play, but the sound itself, the sort of amplification that you use, how does that fit in the creation of your own style, or how did you learn about these things?
Well, of course, it's a challenge, man. When you play country blues on electric guitar, it can get really muddy because your thumb and fingers are doing a lot on the guitar, and so you have to keep the amp clean, but not so clean you don't have a tone. So Fender amps cranked up work good, and so it's kind of like country picking when the country player plays with his thumb too. You know, they usually play Telecasters through Fender amps, and so you have to be real careful with that. But something that happened about 4 or 5 years ago was just trying to create music, original music. I was playing slide, and of course when you play slide you get sustain when you have more rotor driven amp, and but when you do that the music changes and it goes towards rock and roll real quick. So, but I created a bunch of songs for a record I never put out, but it's slide, rock, blues, slide record.
Yeah.
With the sustain, you know, so that you can't play that way on a clean amp, you know, so. But you're playing the same thing. You can play a Robert Johnson a song like that, and then the same exact notes, but you hear it and you're like, man, that sounds like rock and roll to me. That's not blues. But you're playing the same exact notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what you're using now too? Fender amps?
Yeah, I still have the same amps.
Yeah.
And some Silvertone amps.
Okay. Yeah. And how about the guitars? I mean, I know you build them yourself, or at least you did. I don't know if you still build them yourself.
Same guitars. You know, musicians don't have any money, so you can't buy what you want. But I was fortunate. I had a 71 SG for years. That's my best guitar. And the pickups in it are the older pickups. You know, it's a real 71. So I play it a lot, and then the other guitars are just pieces of junk that I have to use.
Yeah.
And,
when we met in 2011, you built some guitars yourself, didn't you? From I remember Driftwood from the Mississippi, huge slide guitars, cigar box guitars.
Yeah, sure.
Do you still have them? Do you still
I still
use
have
them?
and every now and then for specific certain type of events.
Yeah.
I pulled out my Driftwood guitar for a group they're from Australia, I believe, passing through, and I was hired to kind of talk a bit and play. So, but yeah, the Driftwood guitars, I made my first Driftwood guitar years ago, and the string, it's as long as a guitar string will go.
Okay.
So it's different
That's
guitar.
the limit.
So that helps with the sound because the string is longer, and therefore it's more looser.
Yeah.
And you can also go up higher on it, up the neck, and I had, let's see, the first one I made has a hot humbucker in it, and so it has a unique sound, and that long E string can really get low in the right amplifier, and it was a unique sound, and so that sound people like. It's been used in films and different. It was been, I don't know, a number of things, and but yeah, it's just kind of a, when you're going and playing a regular show, you just drag that stuff out of the house, but if it's a certain show, people enjoy it in the middle of the show. Bring something like that out, and but I remember years ago, like in 2000, I was playing the cigar box guitar and the one string, and people hadn't seen that before.
Yeah.
And I've seen people jump up and run the stage like, what in the world is that? And I'd never seen it. And I remember I was doing a show and there was maybe 500 people there, and middle of the show I start twanging on that one string and everybody jumped up, ran to the stage like it was something special, you know. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, whoa. And I said, I didn't bring many CDs with me. I have a few for sale over there at the table. And everybody took off towards the table. I think I sold $1,000 worth of CDs that night.
That's nice. Talking about, selling CDs or whatever, how about the money-making part of the career? Because, you can be good in music, but you still need to make a living. Was that always possible for you? Could you make a living with music?
Well, I made a living here I've been doing it here professionally for 23 years, 22 years or whatever. And I made a living because I played a lot of solo gigs and playing a lot of songs from the 20s and 30s, older songs on acoustic guitar through an amp usually. So, but it's really hard to make a living with a band, and it got harder every year, and it's so I don't know how. The good Lord blessed me, and I think the only reason He did that is because He knew I had kids. So, but I made, of course, you keep your living expenses down. But I've been blessed. House has been paid for years, and cars paid for. My wife wears my hand-me-down. So she hadn't run me off yet. That's what I said.
Well, that's good. Keep it that way. Yeah. When you write your own songs, your own music, tell me about how it happens. Is the music there first? Are the lyrics there first? How does it start? How is that process going? Because it's a question that a lot of people in Europe are busy with. How do you write your own material and bring it up to a level that is good enough, high enough, quality enough to do something with it? How does that work?
Well, I can tell you, it's hard to do all of it, to write the music and the lyrics and the melodies. One of the hardest things is writing original vocal melodies.
Okay.
And how many people have done their own version of Rolling and Tumbling, but it's really just Rolling and Tumbling, right? But there's a certain degree of liberty you do have, whereas if it went to court, they will rule it as being original, right? Because it's far enough away. But of course, I know people that have outright stolen people's music, put their name on it, the vocal melodies and the music melodies in country blues.
So what is the process that you use when you write music? What comes first, for instance?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Got off there. Well, there's different ways it works for me, and whatever. One day it may work one way, and another day it might work another way. One day you might be writing something on an acoustic guitar, and you come up with one of the main things that helped me to step more over into it was I was playing country blues for years, and doing you brought up Eddie Cusick earlier.
Yeah.
You used to play with Eddie, and Eddie said, "Bill, you got to push, man. You finally got to push." And that was like quick. You play a note real quick before you play it. It's like a drummer. Good blues drummers play behind the beat a little bit. Well, this is like playing ahead of the beat real quick before you hit that root note and get like that. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
And so that feel for the music, it allows you to vamp or to make it jump or bounce. So you can make anything bounce if you got that little thing. I learned that little thing in music in the blues, and so say you learn a Son House song, and then if you got that bounce, you put that bounce in there, and then you change to your own melody, but you got going off of a Son House song, but then by the time you add your stuff to it and you come up with your original melodies, then it's nothing like Son House's song. So you have original music right off the bat. And so if you're gonna lyrically write a blues song, that's the hardest part for a white guy. You got to be truthful in the music. So I can't sing about picking cotton. I chop cotton, but it was my dad's cotton, right? But so that don't count, you see. So you gotta be truthful on your lyrics. So funny songs are go good for blues, for white guys to write lyrically, or it can be anything. But it's real tricky. You study, say, blues lyrics, and you got if you listen, the last word at each sentence rhymes with the next word, or you do it 2 times, and the 3rd time it rhymes. Start writing those words down. The rhymes with P, or whatever. So you'll find that all the blues songs, not all of them, but most of them have the rhymes at the end. And then you got to figure out how to start the sentence. But you want to be original, so you can't, So write words down that rhyme, and it can help you to get from one point to the end of the sentence. And then, so blues can be easier or a lot harder in that respect, because you're in a box and you've got to stay in that box, and whereas the original Delta blues was by guys that wrote about their pain is in the music, their suffering, and their language. So when the language African people were kidnapped and brought over here as slaves, and then they had to change into Western civilization, and that change of their language into this language is in that way it was adapted is in the language from years of after slavery. It's still in the language, and that language is what gave birth to the blues, a large part, and all the blues scholars don't give that enough credit, but the vocals are half of it, and they all focus on the guitar and everything, and the singing. Of course, the singing was great, but so if you're a white guy, you don't have that. That's just it. You have to be true to yourself and write your own music in that style. And I've been guilty of trying to do that, trying to find my way, trying to find my own voice, and a lot of other people have, but you got to stop doing that and do your own thing. And because it doesn't, you make a fool of yourself, really.
But you can take the old music and work from there on and build your own music, is that correct? I mean, you take the old music, you're not going to be able to play it the same way, you're not going to be able to have the same lyrics, you don't have a black voice, but you can still take that richness that is there and then start working with that to make your own music. Is that what you're saying?
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And I think it's real hard in country blues.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier with swing blues. I say like Little Walter.
Yeah.
My listening, I hear pleasing things that white guys do with that music, singing wise. But when I hear a white guy singing country blues, it's hard. It's hard to make the mute because the notes or the voice, their voices are connected with the notes they're playing. So you're bending all these notes in those certain places in country blues. When you try to sing along with those notes, which you automatically want to do, that's a different kind of voice. It just doesn't work. It may be a handful of people out there that can do it, but the ones that they say can do it good, they've adapted it to fit their voice. You have to adapt it. while you're singing, especially whatever you're playing, and that's what gave birth to the great music that came out of Britain in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Because they adapted it, because they knew how bad they sound singing. Just listen to the Rolling Stones doing "You Gotta Move." Sounds awful, but then their songs sound great. So, but you know, you got in the blues community, they said, "Oh, the Rolling Stones can't play blues. Look, they sound awful." But they had done great sounding blues before. But the blues community is always ready to chop somebody's head off.
Yeah. How do you appreciate that? I mean, you indeed have people that want to have it all original to be authentic, you know, and you have other people that say, well, that's history, man. I mean, you can take history and do your own thing with it. You don't always have to be. You have to be respectful. You have to pay credit to those people, but you don't have to copy them. Do whatever you want to do with it. Where is Bill Abel standing in that thing? I mean, what do you think about it?
Well, that's my opinion. You know, you do your own thing, and whether they like it or not, there is a group of people who thinks differently. They think the white guy should play as close to the original black guy as he can, and if he sounds better than this other guy, in other words, there's people, we're looking for the white guy that can sound as much as like the black guy as possible, and we're going to hire him, you know. It has nothing to do with original music. And I don't agree with that, you know. I mean, that's not real art, you know, that's fakery. And I've been judged for, I can play black music. The people I played with were the music. The guys I played with didn't change when you want to change, and then you get to the turnaround, and then they toy around with it 4 or 5 times, and make you think they're going to turn around, and then by the time they do, you think the music's destroyed, and then when they do the turnaround on the other side, you realize they did this beautiful thing with it. And you're like, whoa, you just went through a whirlwind of in your mind going, my mind doesn't want to accept this, but until they resolved it, then it became a piece of music that was incredibly complicated and deep, deeper than anything than people play today.
Yeah.
And that's what I always loved about the blues and the people I played with. And I play that way myself, but people, your audience don't want to hear that because their minds go, oh, I don't accept that. That sounds bad to me. But it's actually a deeper style of music, and it's harder to do that. The grooves are very deep, and that's what I enjoy doing. And if I accomplished anything at all, it was playing grooves like that with people.
Yeah.
Which I'll get no credit for. It was just for what we loved, you know, and performances we played doing that kind of stuff. But it's a shame that the audiences they don't know they'll ever be ready for that, because that's not, it's somewhere between Western music and African music. And the people just their ears aren't geared towards it. And I have a friend of mine, he studied Celtic fiddle tunes, and he'd write his own music, and the changes were so Celtic, and he adapted them Western music in a way, and very few people got it. And it's just awesome creativity, and but to them it sounded bad, you know, and nobody could play with him. Basically, the only person people could play with him is if they could play Celtic music. But your everyday musician, they thought, wow, he can't even play on time. This sucks. He doesn't know. He's not good enough to even play on time. That's what he got. So he's still alive, and to this day, you know.
How do you deal with it, with that artistic freedom and growth that you personally want to accomplish, and at the same time, being close enough to what people want because you're making your money with it. You know, I mean that's a balance that isn't easy.
Well, it's I don't think it's any. I'm about 60 now, and it really just doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you play, you know, you want to play at Ground Zero, you got to get people dancing.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't dance to country blues.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we rock up the country blues when I play there. You know, just cut the amp up and rock it out and jam on it. And then we have to throw Chicago blues in there because the audience, they don't know anything, you know. You do have people that are into what the country blues and stuff, and they really enjoy it. But you throw in Chicago blues and it makes sense to people. But you know, I don't play modern blues or B.B. King songs or anything. I mean, if I'd have played that kind of music, I never would have went anywhere and played music anywhere because they had bands in their hometown, wherever they're from, that played that kind of music. But I didn't grow up playing that music. I never learned those songs. And so I was fortunate to get to have gone and played the places I played, but I was just doing what I love to do, playing that style of music. But anyway, but as far as the deep stuff, it's interesting. I've witnessed people that you and I knew, say like Eddie Cusick, or people that really good playing acoustic guitar on the streets, nobody's paying attention because they're so used to being blasted with loud electric music. And I always believe that the acoustic blues should be in some small, the ones I went to are always the best in a small auditorium. And But I've seen so many people that were great playing for people that weren't even listening, talking, and you know, you have to get loud to get people's attention. But anyway, there's attention span. There's attention span of the music too. You got people, first time they hear Robert Johnson, their brain can only take 3 songs, and then you don't get many people sit down and go, wow, I love this, and listen to all of his recordings back to back. It's just too much information, I guess. But that's the story of this music. It's so therefore, since that's part of it, there's only so many venues or so much acceptance. You don't have so much acceptance for this type of music. And many people I knew that were great, and they didn't get to do anything. And because they were misunderstood, and people didn't understand their music. So,
where did you play your music? I mean, locally, of course, nationally, internationally. Did it take you to places that you had never been before? Otherwise,
yeah, that was because of the tourism industry, and honestly, I can say that all my gigs came from people from the outside that came here visiting and hear you play, and then they say, "Oh, you come play here," and then you're off and running. But I never have been promoted to play from here from anybody. And my story is I played behind people, and I was only hired to play behind people. And it was very few times I got to play my own music for the audience on the stage. And the times I did go and got gigs was from playing those very few times. And I never got hired because they say, I saw you playing with a T-model, but will you come over here and play? You know, I never got gigs for that. But
are you regretting that, or are you happy with it the way it went?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thankful I got to play the things I did. Right now my phone's not ringing. It hasn't in years, and so I'm focusing more on my artwork to make a living. You know, so I'm not making the same amount of money I used to, so I can't pay all the bills with just playing music. So
Tell me about the artwork that you do.
I do. I went back to school as an older student 23 years ago
Mm-hmm.
and studied painting and ceramics. The ceramics is a high-fired functional stoneware potter in a Japanese style, which is part of what's called the Mingei movement out of Japan at the turn of the century. So that's the kind of style pots I make. And then the painting is the local professor here. I was one of his, took his last 4 semesters at Dutch State. And he studied painting from real life and painting light keys, similar to French Impressionism, but it's more solid. It's not broken up color. It's more based on solid planes of color in the light key. And he learned from his teacher's name was Henry Hinchy, and he had a school in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And so that's where I learned to paint from real life. And so that's how I paint today.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's pretty much it.
It's kind of a totally different way of spending your time, I think. I mean, music is going out, playing before people, have interaction. Pottery and painting looks like a solitude thing to be busy with, or, I mean, is that so? And
it is a very solitary thing for me, because there's not a lot of support for the arts around here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no gallery in Clarksdale.
Mm-hmm.
They have a gallery in Cleveland, but they don't hardly ever do anything. And so there's no art community. I'm just by myself. I have friends that do artwork. And so you enjoy nature when you're out painting. That's nice. You see a lot of sunsets and that kind of stuff. I guess otherwise I'd go crazy, I guess. But
would you like to play more music if it would be possible in the
well,
future?
I always dreamed of it, but it just, I think I did tours in Europe 12 or 13 times and played things across the United States, but it wasn't a constant thing. It was on every year over the past 22 years. It was like, say I went to Europe 12, 13 times, that was every other year.
Mm-hmm.
And then going off and playing, and then you're back home and you're playing in the restaurant where people are saying, "Can you hold it down, please?" And all that, to be honest and truthful. So as far as this, I always wanted to play, but it didn't happen. So, but hey man, they got all the rock blues they want, and they got their B.B. King cover bands, and they got this and that, and I think they're happy.
Okay.
So, but I mean, you would think where you grew up, people would help, but I'm the wrong color to be promoted, and that's just the way it went down. I mean, the honest truth is that it's appropriate to promote a black guy who doesn't play blues is to promote someone like me that plays. So that's what's happened. And which is disappointing, but I'm not going to be bitter by it. I've been blessed. I have overabundance in life and the things I've gotten to do, and no room for complaining, but there's still hope. Maybe get to play some more. Somebody calls, I'll sure play.
Well, it's a typical thing that happens with all blues guys, isn't it? That they get a second career when they get real old.
Yeah, that was in the 60s. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, who knows?
Did I left important things out, Bill, that you wanted to talk about and that I didn't touch on at all? things that you want to talk about, say something about?
Well, I guess my last CD was a gospel blues record, and I've always played gospel music. John Nolan used to play so spiritual songs before the word gospel was in music. You check out Lomax's reference on that. The birth of gospel music happened in '41, I think. But before that, the music was really great. But John Nolan used to sing those spirituals, and John's still around. We still do. We mix in a few spirituals with the blues, but he increased my love for gospel blues, and so I worked on those for years, and then so I came out with a gospel blues CD just last month. And of course, my little story is back when I was 21, I had a born again Holy Ghost experience with God and Christ. Turned to Christ, and otherwise I wouldn't be here. So I had to give him credit, and but that's what I had. After that,
what happened? Do you want to share it with us, or you rather not? Yeah.
Well, it's basic gospel stuff, you know.
Okay.
I was 21, full of darkness. You can get dark pretty quick when you're young, running around doing all kind of naughty stuff, and just got tired of carrying around the weight of guilt and shame, and needed to release. And then I was concerned about. I read the Bible, and the things I was doing. It says you go to hell. So I was good at doing those things. So I think I do know this older lady was praying for me, and I started being concerned. So I wanted to know if I died, I would make it. Because before that, I didn't care. But for some reason, I was concerned. And so that caused me to what's called repentance. I broke up with my girlfriend I was sleeping with and other things, and I said, God, I want to know I'm going to make it, because I know I'm not. And so I sought God and asked him to forgive me. So he showed up, and I got what they call deliverance and filled with the Holy Spirit. And of course, that was a real thing that happened at a real time and place. And that was a experience changed my life. So you can imagine, I mean, when that happened, I was filled up. I was super happy, super joyful, because I had forgiveness, and Christ spoke to me and said, "You're forgiven. This is me filling you up. Liquid love poured in my body." That's a life-changing experience. And it was not about religion or about believing, having faith in God or anything. It was a real experience that changed my life. And so that was years ago at 21. And so that when that happened, after that, I had a desire to want to know more about God, and so a desire to enjoy the things of God. So gospel blues being one of them. Every time I'd hear gospel blues, I liked it. As before, I didn't like it at all. I hated it. And so that was how it began. And then hanging out with John years later and singing and playing. And then songwriting, man, when I learned 50 to 80 gospel songs over the years. And those melodies, being mostly in the major key, helps your creativity, and it helps you to create original vocal melodies. There's something there. You learn a lot of gospel songs. Of course, you pull from different things, but that's one of them you can pull through. And a lot of people we like, they actually learned a lot of gospel songs too. They may not have recorded any, but they learned them. So there's something there in the music, as well. Because that's my little story on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. If I get a lot of questions, not a lot, but I mean, happens regularly that people ask me, young people that are trying to play the blues. I teach harmonica. What do we need to listen to if we want to start? How does that go? How do we start getting into the blues music? What is your advice on that?
Learn the simplest. There's a lot of power in country blues.
Mm-hmm.
If you learn how to play some of the simpler music, you wouldn't think it, but in a way it's real complicated, in a way it's real simple. That'd be like Muddy Waters music. If you learn some of his music's more attainable, learn how to play that where you can play it by yourself. There's a lot to be said to learning rhythm. You need to learn rhythm, and you can practice with a metronome, and you practice with the old music, stomping your foot in time, and being able to hold the beat down on your own without even playing anything is very important. The teachers won't tell you how much important the rhythm is. So learning rhythm, getting the rhythm in you is the most important thing, and then learning other people's music starting out, say Muddy Waters, and then for folk music, somebody like Mississippi John Hurt, and your thumb patterns, and finger patterns, and that's a great way to start, And when you learn that Muddy Water stuff, you'll find out you'll be able to play the B.B. King song, whereas you couldn't before. It's amazing the power in the country blues. You be able to play. You learn country blues, you'll find out you can play a lot of famous rock songs after that. So pretty eye-opening.
Okay. I have one last question. It's kind of a special one. When all of this is done, when life is over, how would you like people to remember Bill Abel? What would you like them to think about you? What is your heritage that you leave behind, whatever?
Well, hopefully it's not a bad attitude. But no, I've been blessed. I guess as far as that goes, it would be what I was just talking about. The gospel, I guess, would be the most important thing. Then my family. And as far as the music goes, it was a privilege and an honor to be born when I was, to get to play with the people I did. And I still shake my head at that. And some of the venues we played in, the experiences of the music itself was just something. And before most everybody's passed away now, but just to be there and playing with them, and also the intricacies of some of that music, of doing the wild changes and all the feeling of it. That was the most important part musically to me. And being a part of this community too, being a part of the celebration of the Delta Blues, and all the wonderful people that are local, that are from here, white and black, and all the friendships made, and just incredible place, and to be able to be a part of it was quite an experience, and means a lot. So,
okay.
you meet people like yourself.